The incessant jangling of cymbals rattled my eardrums as I followed Adam through the marketplace. "You looking for something new, lady?" someone said from behind me, in a rolling lilt I'd heard in several towns. I ignored the speaker, a kid who was probably pushing into adolescence. It was uncanny, though, how he had latched onto the threads of the thought I'd just had. I needed something new. Adam looked back over his shoulder, eyes sparkling. I mustered a smile for his sake, but as soon as he turned away, I sighed. A flash of colors caught my eye, and I looked at the stall beside me. The rickety card tables were mounted with colorful silks printed with fancy designs of red, yellow, purple, orange, all fiery colors. I watched the merchant hawking his wares for a moment, waving a scrap of silk in fanciful swirls of green and gold in front of passers-by and pitching his voice to Carrie. Someone tapped my arm, and I spun quickly, pulling my backpack away first. It could have easily been a pickpocket, but instead it was the same boy as before. He smiled widely at me. "Looking for something new, lady?" he asked again. I frowned. "How did you know?" "I always know. Come on." He ducked between two people carrying baskets and waved his arm. I looked up ahead. Adam stood in front of a stall selling wooden relics, haggling with the artist who was gesticulating widely, a lucky elephant statue in one hand. I caught Adam's eye and indicated I'd be over to the side looking at something. He nodded. We'd traveled together long enough that he knew I could handle myself. Besides, it was a fairly tourist-heavy area, not a place likely for muggings, not with this many people. I walked after the boy, passing an obvious tourist couple who were arguing loudly over the price of their food with a street vendor. I shot them an annoyed look as I walked past. "Yeah, you haggled here, but you didn't try to browbeat people into letting you pay them with the dirt off your sandals." I squeezed into an alley between two stalls, more like a crack in the bricks, really, and jogged after the boy. There were a few smaller places here, mostly selling food. A couple of them weren't even the large tent-like setup I was used to seeing out on the main road, but just a table with a camp stove, a chopping surface, and a skillet. I caught up to the boy. "Where are you taking me?" He grinned. "You'll see." I sighed and kept following him. He stopped at the end of the street. We were past the other vendors now. In front of us at the dead end, braced against the wall, was an old man with long white hair who looked like he was asleep, or dead. I couldn't detect any movement underneath the white robe he wore wrapped around himself like a shroud. For the first time, unease gnawed into my gut. I glanced behind me only to find the rest of the alley deserted, and it was longer than it had seemed when I was walking down it. I could barely see the opening to the main road. The buildings loomed over us, poorly constructed so that they leaned inward over the street. Clotheslines crisscrossed under the sliver of bright blue sky that I could see. I shivered. After being out in the hot sun all morning, the chill of the alley, a damp, aching chill, crept into my bones. I rubbed my arms and looked at my guide. "Is he okay?" The boy shrugged, walked up to the old man, and shook his shoulder. I looked around, hoping the old man wasn't dead, that I didn't have to try to find some help. At least the alley was relatively clean. No plastic garbage bags or refuse lay in the corners. The old man stirred on his mat. Sharp, beady little eyes opened under bushy white eyebrows. He said something to the boy in a tongue I didn't recognize, even though I'd picked up a few local words here and there on my travels with Adam. This was ridiculous. I glanced back at the tiny crack that opened to the main street. Part of me wanted to go back there, to find Adam, to find lunch, to go back to normal. I shook myself, irritated that I felt melancholy at the idea. This was ridiculous. I was having the adventure of a lifetime. I should have been enjoying this. Even though it's the how many hundredth little market in the how many hundredth little out-of-the-way town, my inner voice whispered. "You're looking for something different?" This voice was lower, crackling with age. I turned around. The old man was still seated, but he stared up at me with eyebrows raised. I squatted down in front of him. "Your grandson said the same thing. How did you know?" The man gave me a sharp look. "It is easy to tell the travelers who crave something more, something adventurous and out of this world." My breath hitched a little. Out of this world? He couldn't be serious. Stop it. Stop believing that fairy tales exist. I'd traveled the length and breadth of the world and I still hadn't found my genie. The old man reached behind him and drew out a carved wooden flute. He said something to the boy, and the boy pulled an object out of the corner I hadn't noticed yet. A pot, relatively simplistic, left in the dull original red and corked with a wide stopper. A snake charmer? I raised my eyebrows skeptically. How could this snake charmer be any different than the dozens I'd already seen? The old man put the flute to his lips and began to play, and a long, low, breathy wind floated through the air, bouncing off the brick walls, carrying just the faintest hint of melody. Still, it made the hair on my neck prickle. A stream of sunlight seemed to bend, twist, dust motes dancing as they glittered in front of the old man's flute. I watched the glittering dust sweep back and forth, tracing arabesques. A heavy warmth settled on my shoulders, like it emerged from the shadows into the sun again. The boy unstopped the pot. Coils of smoky gray rose, seemingly effortless. Wings unfurled, and I could see the dust motes through them. The translucence was startling. A horse-shaped head the size of my hand rose, almost nose to nose with me. And eyes, golden eyes, startlingly bright and solid in the shifting, smoky face, opened and stared into mine. A dragon. I felt as though my feet had left the ground as I stared into the dragon's eyes. A real dragon? Here? A voice as faint and whispery as the old man's flute. Who are you? The dragon's lips did not move. Eva! My own voice sounded harsh and grating in comparison. Eva. The old man stopped playing and rose to his feet. He seemed a little unsteady as he came around the smoke-like beast and offered me the flute. I took it. It felt heavy in my hand, the bas-relief carvings pressed into my fingers and palm as I curled my hand around it. What is this for? I asked, looking up. The old man and the boy were nowhere to be found. Wisps of curling dust motes danced in sunbeams where they had last stood. Eva. The chill was back, heavier than ever, but I could not resist the silk of the dragon's voice. I turned back, found it floating again at eye level, golden eyes staring deep into mine. Yes? I whispered. The dragon wafted forward. As soon as the scales touched my bare shoulder, I shivered. It looked weightless, but it felt so heavy as it sank into my skin. My neck lit on fire as the wings settled on it. I bit my lip, tried to hold back a scream. The dragon's voice whispered in my ear. But does it not feel good? And the pain vanished, replaced by a burning warmth, a little like sunburn, but so good. I closed my eyes, drank in the feeling, felt piercing lines trace my skin as the dragon sank into me. Good, Eva. Now let us go find your dear Adam. I opened my eyes, looked again around the alley. It was still deserted. The dust motes had stopped dancing. The old man's rug was empty. You won't need the flute anymore. I wanted to resist, but I didn't. I raised my knee and snapped the delicate instrument across it. The two pieces dropped with a hollow thunk to the stones underfoot. The alleyway swirled a little, and I staggered, grabbing at the wall for support. When I looked up, the vendors were back. The closest one scraped at the pan on his camp stove burner, glancing at me out of the corner of his eyes. I ignored them and walked past until I stood in the alleyway entrance. The sun hit my shoulders. It stung a little, but I breathed deep, feeling as though I was experiencing it all for the first time in 1,000 years. The dust, the smell of frying food, and human sweat, and animal dung. So many possibilities. So many endless possibilities. Was that me talking, or the dragon? It didn't quite sound like my voice in my head. It sounded like a stranger was trying it on for size. Now, Eva. A chuckle bounced around my brain. Bile edged the back of my tongue, but almost before I tasted it, it was gone, soothed away by the sun's warmth. I strolled across the street, casually dodging people with ease, and stopped in front of the booth where Adam had stood earlier. He was gone now, and the vendor was haggling with the same tourists that had been arguing with the food cart across the way. The wooden elephant still sat on the edge of the table. I reached out, ran my finger across the silky smooth wood of its gray back. Where have you been? I jumped and spun around, clutching my backpack tight. Adam stood behind me, a puzzled smile on his face. Oh, sorry. I waved my hand in front of my face, my long pink and white nails catching the sunlight. Got suckered into a tourist trap. Guy wanted to show me a dragon. Adam smiled indulgently. I'd never noticed before how condescending he looked when he did that. My beautiful Eva, still looking for fairy tales. Come on, I got us lunch and a spot by the river. Lunch. That sounded good. I hadn't tasted food in, oh, so long. I followed Adam, feeling a spark light and slow burn in my chest as I watched his broad shoulders part the way in the sea of people. Oh yes, so many gorgeous, beautiful, helpless opportunities. My stomach growled.